What's going on, traders? Today is Tuesday afternoon, approximately 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. You guys know that I exited all of my altcoin trades. When was that? Sunday? Yeah, I believe Sunday. The last three stops went off. Let me check here. Monday morning, something like that. Anyways, all in the profit on the last 22 trades. So we are batting 1,000 for the last 22 trades and feel pretty good about that. And got out of the altcoin space just in time for this drop. And I haven't really said anything since Sunday, so I thought it would be appropriate to bring a quick video here and let you know what I'm looking at, what I'm waiting for, and when I might start to dip my toes back into the proverbial trading waters, if you will. So without further ado, let's just jump into the charts here. This is total 2, as you can see, the daily, and I have drawn out an arrow, which I drew previously. I am expecting at some point, you're going to hear a repeating theme on this video, as you often do on my videos. When I spot patterns in the altcoin space, they're often repeated on almost all of the charts. They all look the same. So this is total 2, which represents all of the altcoin space, including Ethereum, of course, which is alternative of Bitcoin originally. All right, so first thing I want to point out, and I'm going to get out an arrow here, and let me just turn that black real quick so it doesn't get confusing. Is this red? See the steep ascending red line? It runs almost at a, dude, I don't know what the degree of incline would be. 65-70% incline here on this particular chart. But this is a line that you'll see on all of the altcoins. All right. And you can see it down here on the RSI as well. A little less steep on the RSI than it is on the price chart. But we have basically been above this red line since August of this year. All right, so that's quite a bit of time. At some point, my only warning and caution is this line is going to break. All right. Now, on the price chart, we've only been above that line since October. So still a good October, November, December. It's now December. All right, still a good 2 months. And I am expecting a pullback to this red trend line, which could be considered a neckline of a larger inverse head and shoulders pattern. To some chartists, maybe. Not to me. What I really consider the neckline here, this is more technically precise, is this descending blue line. So on this chart, I say, I'm expecting us to test the red line, and I say we could potentially test the blue as well. I really am expecting that at some point. So I should have used a little bit stronger verbiage there, because technically a sound price drawback would go back down to that neckline and retest it as support, just to find out if it's really serious or not. All right. And that's something I call, my followers know, kissing mama goodbye. Anytime we break above a major resistance, we'll usually come back and test that, and that will be one last goodbye before we're off to the moon. All right, and that is definitely indicative of what is going on this chart with this huge inverse head and shoulders pattern. which is suggesting a target way up here of around $920 billion. All right. I expect we could even go to 1 trillion before we have any rest. But that is after we'll come back and test this blue line. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but we will probably come back and test that blue descending line, which currently sits at around 620 billion in market cap for the total altcoin space, but is descending, and depending on when we retest that, it could be a little bit lower. All right, so enough about that. I just really wanted you to gain some context for what my thoughts are and what I'm really looking at. And again, you'll see these red ascending lines both on the price chart and on the RSI as we dig through some of our altcoins here in the next few minutes. But before I do that, I do want to jump to good old Bitcoin, our lead dog, very quickly and show you that, yes, there is that red ascending trend line on this chart as well. And really there is down here as well. I should really thicken that up a little bit so make it more obvious. And on the RSI, we have broken to the downside of that actually. I'm going to get out a little circle here so you can see what I'm talking about. All right. And we're currently on support, this black descending trend line. But on the price chart, you will notice we are still above that red ascending line. All right. Although I am expecting us to pull back and come down at least to the bottom of this purple megaphone pattern. All right. That could dip below, just below 39,500. We could even come down to this support or this support area. Now, if those break, then for sure, previously, you guys will know, I had suggested we're going to come back down to 31,600. That is major, major support. And I expected us to retest that sooner than now, but we have not, all right? But should those supports hold here, this red channel here and this support area, which comes all the way back from our lows, I believe, which were set way back here in January of 2023. I mean, it could even go back to November, really, of 2022 if I extended this channel. Anyways, that is providing huge levels of support. So at this point now, because we've broken above those support areas, which were acting as resistance, I don't know that we'll come back and test that 31,600. All right. So I was more confident about that previously. Now I'm less confident about that. And you can see here that if those supports hold, look at this massive cup. See this massive cup here? That would be a beautiful little handle. And that is a price difference of around $20,000, which would take us to a target of somewhere around $90,000 eventually. I don't believe that happens till next year, but that is what I'm seeing on the charts. The charts are leading me to believe that Bitcoin will go to 90,000. So that's what we have in the future on Bitcoin. All right. Anyways, I wanted to point out the drawback, and we've already had a little bit of the drawback. I said sideways to pulling back a little bit in my previous post and comments, and that we've already got the pullback. So now if we just move sideways, eventually we'll touch the bottom side of that bearish megaphone pattern, and we could essentially drop from there. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Last thing I want to look at here before we jump into some altcoins is the Bitcoin dominance, which is currently forming an M, or I mean has formed an M pattern, just as I expected. All right, we hit the bottom of this channel here, thought we'd come back down to support, which we did, and support happened to be right around 50. Was that 50% Fibonacci? 0.618 actually. No, Dude, I can't see that. Anyways, whatever the level is before zero point 0.5 Fibonacci, that also coincided with a level of support I had drawn at 52% dominance on the Bitcoin dominance chart. We did go back up, form this patented classic double top pattern, and I expect this to come all the way back down. You can see where I have the target drawn, and we are currently on our way there. Actually, if you see the M pattern I drew, the candlesticks have followed it almost like I'm leading them, which I just kind of tossed that up there. But so far it's played out just like I've said. All right, I said that was the last thing, but I do want to visit the Tether Dominance as well. You can see Tether has collapsed, which means that people are full on risk on again. All right, they're throwing all their stable back into Bitcoin, back into altcoin projects, etc., etc. So that's why Dominance has dropped so tremendously. Now, a lot of that was thrown into Bitcoin, which is represented here. Let me get rid of volume real quick so that we can see this a little bit better. Volume. Come on, where's the... There it is. So once Bitcoin collapsed, those people were liquidated back into stable, and that's this big green candle. I anticipated once we hit this support here at around 5.7% dominance on Tether, we'd go sideways. And just like I expected with Bitcoin, sideways to down, and Tether sideways to up. And so we have had our little pop here. I imagine we'll come back down and rest on that support as people now take their stable and go from Bitcoin, I'm anticipating, into altcoins. All right. And as that happens, that stable reserve will be depleted once again, and will stay under this descending red trend line, which is acting as big time resistance. All right, so with the remaining few minutes, I just want to basically repeat what I've said about the total chart in terms of what I'm waiting for and what I'm looking at. Let's just jump to whatever I have here first, which is Litecoin. Now, in this case, I do have a bearish ascending triangle, which I do expect us to drop from at some point. What I'm looking at here, guys, because we did break, and you can see down here on the RSI, getting out an arrow again. All right, we broke below this ascending red trend line. So I am anticipating, if I were to delete that green arrow, which is misleading at the time, I do expect us to come back down and touch this level of support on the RSI. Coinciding with that would be a break from this ascending red trend line, coming down to tag somewhere between $61 and $63. Once again, all right, this is going to be a final touch, in my opinion. I don't think Litecoin will stay this low for much longer before it does take off. You can see we just, we had a big pop over here where it went up to $113, $115 ish. All right, so that's double from where we're at right now. All the other altcoins have popped. Where's little Litecoin? It's going to pop, but we have to be a lot more patient with this one because it's an old one and it's just a fork of Bitcoin. And I mean, is it really needed? No, we're just trading it. So people are not as interested in Litecoin. For that reason, though, it will surprise you from time to time with whales coming in and pumping this thing. First, though, I do expect us to break from this ascending triangle and drop to our support, like I said, somewhere around $61 to $63 before we jump up. All right. But the bottom of that ascending red triangle would be the red ascending line that we're going to see on the rest of these coins. Here's XRP. And this one I have a longer term trending red ascending trend line. So that's not really as good of an example. I'm going to jump to gods here. This one's a steep incline. Here's our red ascending trend line. All right, very steep, but God's has really just gone parabolic here. So it's going to cool down here. I think it's coming back in. It's going to touch this ascending red trend line once again. Though we do have some indication it may even break below that, because look at our red ascending trend line down here on the RSI. All right, we've broken that. We've got some good support with that channel down there. But we'll see with God's. Power, again, these things have gone absolutely parabolic, these altcoins. So the pullback, as I expected, we got all out, took our profits, 22 profitable trades in a row. Now we're just kind of being patient here, waiting for the trade to come to us. All right, don't have to be impatient here, guys. These altcoins have really gone insane. So there's a lot of room for us to sink back down to reasonable levels. And I think that red trend line starts to be somewhat reasonable, even though that's a crazy incline as well. All right, so we could break that red trend line, as we are going to see some of our alts already have. Here's storage, all right, on the RSI. Look, that's broke. So that's our lead indicator, the RSI. All right, so storage broke to the downside of the red ascending trend line, and on the price chart, that's still intact. But some of these altcoins you will see have broken below not only the RSI, but also on the price. All right, here's audio, GMX. All right, we broke below that ascending red trend line, coming back down to the one on the price chart. And here's ApeCoin. ApeCoin has really not had its grand pop to the moon like everything else has. All right, this is kind of more reserved right now, but I think it will eventually. Once it breaks this little, see this little cup and handle? Once it breaks this neckline, it's going to fly. Until then, though, and it remains to be seen whether it's even going to form that handle there that you see. All right, this little handle right here. I just drew that. I don't know if that's gonna hold or not. But if that breaks, it'll break that red ascending trend line, and it'll drop considerably before it takes off. If that red ascending trend line holds, this thing here, and it breaks through this neckline, then I expect it to go to $2.52. All right, at least that first level there, maybe $2.87. All right, anyways, the point of this video is not to give you any price targets or projections here. I really just wanted to show you the common theme throughout these altcoin charts, and you got to draw this out. On the RSI, you'll see this, and on the price chart, you'll see this. ARB coming back to that red trend line. Let me see if I can find an altcoin here that has actually broken to the downside. I think most of them have maintained that level above the ascending red trend line, and actually even bounced. You can see in the case of Atom here, which is up 17% currently. Was up, like 23, 24% today. Luna, this is Loon C. This is classic. All right, I'm not interested in Loon C. Actually, I have not traded it since the whole Luna collapse. But this is interesting to me because this looks like a good pattern setup, and we could come back down to that purple trend line. We could come all the way back down to the red ascending trend line as well. If that happens, then you can expect the ascending trend line on the RSI to break. All right, they don't necessarily correlate. The one on the RSI is more of a leading indicator. But yeah, I'm sorry guys, I don't really see an ascending red trend line that has broken yet. And so for that reason, a touch on that red ascending trend line, once you draw this out on your altcoin of preference, altcoin of choice, you may want to consider DCAing in at the moment that we touch that red trend line. All right. And I'm at 20 minutes, guys, so I'm going to say goodbye because all of my TradingView people have to squeeze this in 20 minutes. I tend to speed up the video a little bit so I can get it in that 20-minute mark, whereas I can't, or I haven't tried to do that on YouTube yet. Anyways, guys, hope you understand what I'm looking at and what I'm waiting for. Once we start to touch those red ascending trend lines again, I grow interested in re-entry into the altcoin space. All right, so until the next post or video, peace, y'all.